It was tiebreak day in the Fide World Cup, and I want to show you an incredible game from the match between Andrei Esipenko from Russia and Magnus Carlsen. This really is tremendous. It was a superb match. They went toe to toe the whole way. They had draws in the rapids, then they traded wins in the kind of semi-rapid, and this is the second blitz game. Carlsen had won the first blitz game, so only needed a draw in this game. But it's hard to play solidly in a blitz game. Let's see what happens. Don't forget, like, comment, share and subscribe, and do consider supporting us via Patreon or PayPal, links down there. So here we go. Esipenko with the white pieces. Remember, he is just 19 years old. Such an incredible talent. He's played a great World Cup so far. And if you recall, he defeated Carlsen in the Tata Steel tournament in January. And I think this whole match showed what an extraordinary talent he is. Really, you know, Carlsen was struggling to make his mark against Esipenko. Even when he seemed to be grinding him down, Esipenko would escape. So fascinating to see whether Esipenko with the white pieces could hit back in this game. So it's a gioco piano, and this system is a pretty reliable one for black. Carlsen has played this exact line before. I mean, both players were blitzing out these moves. It is a blitz game after all, but no real hesitation because this is a known position. And in fact, Carlsen has had this exact position against Wesley So and against Ding Liren. He actually lost both of those games. But, well, we're at move 16. He does at least know the position pretty well. Wesley played c4 here. Ding played a5. Esipenko played rook a b1 after 9 seconds. So he'd done his homework as well. So Carlsen was the first to put in a bit of a think. 47 seconds over rook d8. It's an incredibly tense position, this, with exchanges and pushes available. But, you know, should you do it? Let me just show you one possibility, that if these pawns are exchanged, then actually black has to be quite careful, because it's these outposts that white is looking to enter, possibly with the move c4 supporting the knight on d5. And if black actually covers that with c6, then that pawn could maybe advance to c5, and that knight might hop into d6. So you've got to be incredibly careful in this position. Knight g6 played. That looks good, supporting the pawn and looking perhaps to come into f4. c4, so real tension in the middle of the board. Big decision for Carlsen. Should he take? Should he push? Well, if that's the pawn pushes, then knight f5. The knight looks pretty good here. If these are exchanged, if pawns are exchanged, then, well, for example, queen c6, knight d5. This is getting very tricky. There is a pin here. So something like this could happen. So we've got a situation where it's two rooks against the queen, for example. And that's one possibility. White doesn't have to go in for that. Rook d1 is possible. It's just a very tense situation. But Carlsen kept the tension by playing c6. And here I think it's probably best for white just to play g3 to cover the f4 square, cover one of the outposts, and just put the king on g2. Obviously that pawn needs protection. And it seems to me that white is more comfortable here because that knight isn't really going anywhere. But yeah, very tense situation. Rook d1 played by Esipenko. And after knight f4, this feels okay for black now. Now that this knight has reached a good square. Now Esipenko matches this with knight f5, but and he had two relatively big thinks around here. He thought for 50 seconds over this remove. Remember, they start with 5 minutes, so 50 seconds is quite a chunk of time. But Carlsen, in that big think, had prepared a good response, and he spent precisely 12 seconds over g6. Big decision, because black offers a pawn. And white's best is probably just to bring the knight back, but obviously in that case, well, I mean, black is very comfortable in this position. The knight does look good. But Esipenko decided, okay, I'm going to take the pawn. So pawn sacrifice from Carlsen, but watch what happens. Basically, this knight is still very strong. The h-file opens. And, well, here Carlsen played in a very natural way. He brought the rook back, and the queen threatens this pawn, and black certainly has a tremendous initiative there. But even stronger was this move. Takes, now watch this, is very clever. Rook d6, kind of thing you'd never spot in a blitz game. The point is this. Rook is attacked after rook takes rook. Black has the Zwischenzug. Queen takes g4. Threatening mate, and then you can take this. Okay, white gives up the rook, so white is still a pawn up, but this is just a tremendous initiative for black and should be a winning attack. But Carlsen played rook e8, also strong, also gives black a really good initiative. Threat, queen takes pawn. So knight h2, rook h8, and the threat is just to take the knight and play queen g4, and the next rook comes over, and that's devastating. So f3 is necessary, but that opens this diagonal, and this is a bit uncomfortable. So if f takes e4, then queen d4, well, I'm sure you know this one already. That's absolutely crushing. That's mate. So d takes e4, forced. Queen e7, that queen looking to get in on h4. Just compare the two knights. White's knight on h2, not a good piece at all. The knight on f4, wonderful piece. Rook takes, queen takes. And here with some tricky moves, white may be able to hold. Queen b2 is a clever move, actually. Just asking black, okay, how do you defend that pawn? And this probably will wind up as a draw. White can hold on here. But Esipenko, it's a blitz game after all, played the natural move, g3. And now black is in complete control. You can see that Carlsen is now dominating the centre of the board. Look at these wonderful pieces. H-file also very uncomfortable for white. And this is a lost position now. So one pawn is recovered. The knight is defended. I mean, that is, I think we can say that's a pretty good octopus knight on d3. I mean, really, it's a horrible position for white now. Carlsen takes another pawn. So Esipenko decided, right, got to go for it on the king side. Carlsen just exchanged and took the third pawn on the queen side. So now that means that white absolutely has to break through on the king side. g5. So he gives his knight a square. Now here, well, seems to me the most sensible thing to do would just to bring the queen back here, or maybe just push the pawn to support the knight, maintain the knight in the middle, and I don't believe white to attack on the king side. Carlsen was in a hurry. He played knight c5. He wanted to bring a rook down to the second rank, maybe the queen, and also to put some pressure here. But after queen b2 check, he got a shock. He forgot about this move. You could see his reaction at the board. This was a shocker, and suddenly both players down to their final few seconds, and this is uncomfortable. A huge check threatened here, possibly here as well. How do you play? Well, Carlsen managed to pull himself together, and actually he has a good response. Knight takes e4, covering the f6 square, and after check the king can hide on h7. And if knight takes f7, then black is in time to counterattack. Esipenko played queen h2, still looking to attack, but rook d2, excellent move from Carlsen, hitting the queen, which came up the board. King g7, just stepping out of trouble on the h-file. f5, and now queen d5, lining up the queen. And f6 check, and knight takes f6. Discovered check was the final move of the game, of course. Mate follows shortly on g2. Wow, I mean, that was an extraordinary game. I'm very well judged by Carlsen, but Esipenko showed what a talent he is. I mean, not just in this game, but I mean throughout the whole match. He was so tenacious, and nicked a win off Carlsen in one of the tiebreak games. He is such a prospect for the future. So there we go. Carlsen won those two final Blitz games, and he goes through to the quarterfinal, where he will play, let me find it, Carlsen plays Etienne Bacrot from France. Vidit will play Duda. Fedoseev will play Tabatabai. Karyakin will play Shankland. If I were to put money on the two players in the final, I would say Carlsen against Karyakin, but we're still only at the quarterfinals. A long way to go. Now, remember, folks, it is the last day of the merch sale at the PowerPlayChess shop. So all merch, there's 20% discount on all merch at the PowerPlayChess shop. You'll find the links down there in the description, but also in the comments. There you go. You can get your Octopus Knight t-shirts, hoodies, mugs. There's Pin and Win, the new design. Queen in Siberia, Split Rooks. You'll find them all in the PowerPlayChess shop. 20% off. Lasts until, I think, just midnight tonight. So do check it out now. Thanks for watching.